let's continue on. The halves, man. It was a, a difficult one for them, and for me, it showed a little bit of inexperience on a big occasion. We talked a little bit about the occasion being big. Metcalf's first time as leading the team in the NRL, proper season. CHT again, um, played pretty solid in my opinion, but had some moments. The pair of them kind of didn't take full control at times. But
Mm,
I'd like to hear your thoughts. You might see some things differently. I think there's a lot of positives too. But what were your
mm.
thoughts on the halves? Was it overwhelming for them, or was this just a new pairing and we need to give them more time to settle in as a combo? What's your thoughts?
Well, I definitely think we do need to give them more time to settle as a combo.
Yeah,
Again, these two are obviously the two that have impressed the most in the preseason. I thought it was interesting. There was way more of that sweep out to the left instead of coming to the right side, which that right side shape works so well for us.
yeah,
Um, yeah, I don't know. I think they combined well together. They were there for each other. It seemed they were popping up for each other in different places and being there. I just think they were quiet. They
yeah,
weren't commanding of their position. And obviously, as a half, you've got to be talking. You've got to be, you know, you got to be guiding the troops around as much
yeah,
as you can, putting people in positions and stuff. And it felt like they just weren't doing that. I
yeah,
thought Metcalf looked way more comfortable running the ball than doing anything else. I think Chanel obviously is a really he is quite effective on that left.
yeah,
And here comes the Chanel propaganda. But when there was a couple of plays, and I think it was pointed out by one of the commentators. But when it might have been Matty Johns, when he stepped back inside and kind of hit the gap and tried to, it was in the second half, I think, tried to hit the gap and go through. And he was like, as a running half, the first thing you lose when you're leading a team is your running game. When you're thinking about
yeah.
all
It's a
the
good
different
way to think.
options. And
Yeah,
so to see Chanel running the ball as he was,
yep,
it was good to see. There was signs, there was positive signs, and people, like, we have to remember it was their first game, first of all, playing together.
yeah,
Like I can't remember any other time that those two have been a halves combination before, and it's also is Metcalf's first time as a seven,
yeah,
which, if you're, obviously you played it through the grades and stuff, but your first time in first grade as a seven leading the team, I'm happy to wipe that one. That to
yeah,
me is okay, cool, whatever. Goldfish moment, get that out of your head, and let's go again next week.
yeah,
So it'll be exciting to see when they do click and when things do work. And obviously having bigger fields now, having a bit more space, it hopefully breeds more opportunity for them. Gets a little, turns those half gaps into full gaps that they can
yeah,
push through. Hopefully they're working this week and next on supporting Egan through the middle. You think back to the Rabbitohs game last year where Egan was so dominant, and it was
yeah,
because Sean and Te Maire were pushing through with
yeah,
Wade. But so it'll be interesting to see, because obviously Metcalf is a runner. He's someone who will
yeah.
run the ball, and so yeah, I don't know. Again, it'll be good to see his running game officially come back while being able to play all these other things.
Yep.
And again, then with that as well, going to the left, we didn't see Chance. Chance is that right
Yeah.
side guy, and so
Yep.
that brought down Chance's efficiency as well and effectiveness in the game.
Well, that's where I go to that. I know I got a bit of stick for the three halves concept,
Hmm.
but I mean, if CNK is only going to give you 88 meters, as Warrior Forever has said here, then a shout for Tamati is Jenny, because he can open up that left side and help
Hmm.
CHT out. He can help Metcalf out. But again, Webby's going with the tried and true, and understandably so. But yeah, I'm again, I support these two. Like I mean, me and Ash were big Tamite fans, and we saw his game and his value. But I said, as soon as we get the two that Webby thinks, let them play it out. So
Hmm.
I get the feeling from a lot of people like, Now they want that straight change, and I understand that too. But the minute he starts chopping and changing is the minute that things will start to lose traction or could lose traction. So for me, minimum, like I've said, till week 12 for this
Yeah.
halves combo, and I stick by that. I think even if they struggle, I don't think it will be just because of them. I think the team's going to struggle. Like I said, we like predicting this will be top 8 finish in the 8th position, which tells you
Mm.
it's not going to be the best season ever. So I think let them ride it out, let them figure it out. But again, I think there has to be more from CNK. His involvement's more important. They have to get in line with Egan too. You saw Egan jumping out and no one's with him. So
Mm.
there's a bit of everything happening. And then my other simple thing is just use the back rowers. Use the back
Yeah.
rowers on cutback angles. Drop guys underneath like they did for Roger. Just simple. I just want to go back to your point on Metcalf being a running player, and actually from a system point of view, sometimes I feel creative guys like the Tamaiti and Metcalf and the like are quite limited in the system in terms
Mm.
of Metcalf doesn't have that natural freedom. Yes, he had because he's a 7 and wants to be a 7. He has to sacrifice a lot of his running game, but still there are moments in time where it doesn't quite feel like he's allowed to express himself. Do you have
Mm.
issue with the system and how it fits in with the current players that we have, or do you think we just need to continue to persist with the structures and systems we have in place, and that things will work out? What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think to me, like Metcalf can use his creativity in the system, and it's
Okay.
like the
Yep.
pushing through with Egan. That's where he can he can
Yep.
be his running self and he can do those things. He can be that support player, but then he's got to make it back as well. And so that's kind of that push and pull. And I think when you're directing a team like Luke is, and it's the first kind of is the first game you've played, leading a team around it and being there and being ready, you can just kind of fall back into your shell and just play what the system has, and you fall back on the system.
Yeah. Good point.
And so when he gets comfortable in 7, we'll see him using the system to his advantage and being able to use his creativity with that. And so having the system there and having Webby's system, which is a complicated one, but
Yep.
effective when it works,
Yep.
having that ready to go means that if the going gets tough, he can fall back onto that system and use what we know.
Yep.
And then when things are riding high, like 2023, where we I think pumped like 3 or 4 teams towards the end of the year,
Yep.
seeing Sean stepping around people and using what the system has to his advantage, and even
Yep.
giving Luke Metcalf that space to do that as well. Um, yeah, it was quite an interesting, I guess, contrast into where we can be with the system and where we need to build from. And so, yeah, I don't know. Like, I'd love to see him get his creativity back. I just think
Yeah.
when they get more reps together and when the whole team's working, that's when we'll see it.
One of my issues with the system a little bit is that when they set up a shape, it does put pressure on the halves, and you notice
Mm,
every time that the center will jam the half a lot of the time. And so I just want to see more. I actually want to see them take the pressure off Metcalf being the point as to why everything connects. You'll see
mm,
a lot of the shape center will come jam the half because they know that's the link point to
yeah.
the play being successful. And a lot of times they will jam the half and shut it down. I just would like to see the system adapt to where we can kind of get the center sitting back a bit more. You're putting
Mm,
maybe a little bit more flatter shape at times, just too wide, hit the center early and keep those guys accountable so that they don't feel comfortable coming in all the time.
mm,
Because you see them saying they can see our shape and they say, "Oh, yeah, I'm just going to keep jamming CNK,
yeah.
CHT, and Metcalf," and it kind of makes Metcalf and that look predictable.
Mm,
When at times it's not actually them; it's the system kind of forcing the shape. And like what I liked about Canberra, and I think it's something we could put into our bag is like if you look at Fogarty, he actually didn't really do much. He just played a
mm,
really simple game. He allowed his back rowers and his centers to do a majority of the work, you know, and he let those guys kind of punish us and attack us. And sometimes I think, how can we get more focus onto the outside guys? To
Yeah.
take a bit of responsibility off the likes of a Fogarty or of what Metcalf and that are doing. I think this system naturally tends to hyper focus on the halves as
Mm,
being very influential to making it work. I think we need to, like I said, there needs to be some more. I didn't say this, but we need to focus more around the lock position too. Remember those
yeah.
tries that AFB got all the time through the middle?
Mm,
Like,
absolutely.
we need something there to hold the defense, and otherwise, there's not going to be space for Metcalf or CHT. So
Mm.
it's all that whole chain of events. Yeah, it's just that I think we need to mix it up a little bit more, just create a little bit more. What do you think about that? Yeah,
Yeah, well, it's funny. It's funny you talk about the predictability. Obviously, like I fully agree with you, and we could see that with even a different type of predictability when Luke went down the left side and through that intercept. You know,
yeah, yeah.
that was something that obviously was a was something that
That was a frustration
was
one. I swear that
absolutely
was a frustration.
yeah
Man, we had this, and he forced it, and I don't blame him, but I know it was because everything else hasn't been working, and it felt like the pressure was on him. Sorry, and they keep going. Yeah,
yeah, and then we went down there again later on. And through the dummy and
yeah,
Savage fell for it. And it's that
yeah,
thing of like that's the creativity we have in the system is like as much as guys are jamming into our halves, it's how our halves actually are able to work that and to like if it is giving the short ball, short ball, short ball, short ball, long ball, or if
yeah.
it's going long straight away, like whatever is working, whatever's going to provide the most space for us, that's what they need to be thinking about. But
Yes,
I do love what you're saying about having our 13 be that ball player and the starting three middles of Barnett, Fish, and
yeah.
Ford not going to do that.
Because
And I think straight away,
I saw them one time going together, like Ford and Barnett, and it just looked wrong. Like there was no shape or structure. I was like, "What the hell are we doing out there?" It was. I was literally baffled by how they'd set themselves up on attack. I was like, "This is not, yeah, this is not right."